Hello and welcome to the Public Forum Debate Academy. In this video, we're going to do a very small practice debate on whether Turkey's membership in NATO is beneficial to the alliance. I will read two cases, and then after that, there'll be rebuttals, one rebuttal for each case. Speaking first in pro would be the pro team, and then speaking second would be the con team. That being said, let's get moving on to the first case, which is a pro case in 4 minutes. We affirm that on balance, Turkey's membership is beneficial to NATO. Framework, we hold that the most important impact of the round is lives. This is because of reversibility. Political backsliding, economic decline, injury, these can all be healed, whereas lives cannot be replaced. Contention 1, Octopus cybersecurity. Lockman 19 of the Technological Research Council states, Octopus is a cybersecurity software invented by the Turkish army. Octopus is multi-layered and has multiple security measures. Turkey's development of Octopus was critical for NATO cybersecurity. Lockman finds that Octopus has successfully passed NATO tests and blocked cyber intrusions to the headquarters. The Turkish Armed Forces has been actively using Octopus since 2016. There are many features that make the system critical. Octopus is an integrated system and includes intrusion detection, early warning systems, and detailed operation systems. Turkey's membership in NATO protects other NATO countries and allies against cyber intrusions. The Turkish Academic Network in 2019 states that the software has successfully defeated malicious cyber attacks at different time intervals and successfully passed all cybersecurity exercise scenarios at NATO. Now, Octopus is being used across public institutions. The impact of cybersecurity. Protection against cyber attacks is critical. Hathaway 12 of Yale University finds that cyber attacks have become increasingly common against NATO security. In 2016, Straub reports that the US water treatment plant was hacked and nearly led to chemical water poisonings. A hack is now capable of shutting down nuclear centrifuges and air defense systems. That's why we need Turkey as an ally. Their new critical Octopus system will protect against cyber intrusions in the future and could save millions of lives. Straub 19 finds that the cyber attack could rival the death toll of a nuclear bomb. As Straub confirms, a cyber attack would cause significant damage, including mass injury, the death toll rivaling the death toll of a nuclear weapon. People would die from a lack of power, gas, and heat resulting from a corrupted system or a nuclear hack. Contention 2 is energy hegemony. NATO relies on energy assets. Gantz in 2014, a professor at Sciences Po, states that NATO focuses on the protection of energy assets and the establishment of energy infrastructure plays a central and critical role in energy security. Unfortunately, as we speak, NATO's ability to get energy is being threatened by Russia. Professor Nussbaum of the Naval Postgraduate School states that Russian-backed cyber attacks against energy assets have been identified in Poland, the United Kingdom, and the US. Hybrid threats against energy assets like natural gas supply cutbacks show Russia's campaign aimed at undermining NATO's energy security. Russia's campaign has been most evident in Ukraine, combining energy disruptions, cyber attacks, and disinformation to undermine the country's energy security. The December 2015 Black Energy cyber attack on Ukraine shut down power for nearly 250,000 residents, and a year later, a sophisticated attack on the power grid hit the nation. The solution is Turkey. Turkey's membership in NATO protects against an energy threat. Monaghan of Oxford University states Turkey is defining itself as a key energy hub and a major artery for energy supply to Europe. Turkey sits next to 3/4 of the world's gas and oil reserves. Specifically, the International Energy Agency in 2021 states that Turkey has prioritized security of energy supply, including efforts to boost oil production, infrastructure, and energy efficiency. Turkey has seen diversification of its energy through the growth of renewable electricity and Turkey's nuclear power. Turkey's gas and oil allows NATO European countries to have a stable source of energy now. At Maka 2020 of the German Armed Forces finds that a Turkish drill ship discovered 320 billion cubic meters of gas within the western part of Turkey. Thus, Gantz concludes that Turkey is the sole regional power that has the real ability to challenge Russian monopoly over the region and allow Europe to access energy resources. The impact is death, as empirics prove that without energy, people could die. Griffith of the US Air Force found that in Iraq, the loss of power led to the loss of hospitals, water purification, and sewage systems, which killed 70,000 people. Turkey acts as a NATO safeguard and protects against Russian energy threats, and for these reasons, we affirm. So now I'm going to begin the negative case. I'll start my time now. Turkey's membership is harmful to NATO. Our framework is lives. According to NATO in 2019, the NATO treaty was founded on the principles of democracy, liberty, and the rule of law, which helps protect lives. While NATO stands for these values, Turkey has utterly disregarded the rights of their neighbors and committed atrocious acts that harm NATO's vision and security. Contention 1. The Kurdish genocide. Turkey has blood on its front door. Turkey is right now leveraging NATO's nuclear weapons to continue their genocide on the Kurdistans. Pomper 19 finds that the US has 50 nuclear bombs in southern Turkey, and US procedures have explicitly found that the weapons protection systems are not designed to prevent sabotage, especially from an ally. Turkey's nuclear leverage has forced NATO out of Kurdistan. Losey of the Air Force Times finds in 2019 that the nuclear weapons are essentially Turkey's hostages, since keeping them there leaves them vulnerable. Turkish forces use nuclear leverage to tear into Kurdish land. Brian 19 furthers that the greatest worry about nuclear weapons in Turkey is that the Turkish army will move in and seize them. The impact is genocide. Turkish nuclear leverage has allowed them to pursue a genocide against the Kurdistans. Professor of international security at MIT, Sapolsky in 2019 states that the Kurds have been our close ally, but Turkey views them as secessionists. Turkish destructive allyship with NATO prevents the alliance from intervening in the Turkish genocide. Dagan 20 states that the Turkish military has displaced hundreds of thousands of people as part of an extermination against the Kurdish population. O'Grady 19 of the Washington Post furthers that 30 million Kurds have been violently suppressed under a denial of Kurdish ethnic identity. Contention 2, the Uyghur Muslim genocide. Professor Applebaum, in November at Johns Hopkins University, states Turkish leader Erdogan has turned himself against the rule of law and become openly hostile to former European and NATO allies. Erdogan's interest in Chinese friendship, investment, and technology has increased along with his willingness to echo Chinese propaganda. In recent years, the Turkish government has surveilled and detained Uyghurs on bogus terrorism charges and deported them to China. The impact is concentration camps. Mueller finds that Turkey's treaty can now be broadly used to extradite Uyghurs. Mueller in 2021 of the Diplomat finds in just one instance, over 50 Uyghurs were sent to Chinese deportation camps. Al Jazeera reports that 50,000 Uyghurs and Uyghur immigrants who currently reside in Turkey, and Turkey is deporting them into these Chinese concentration camps. Samuel and March finally finds that Uyghur survivors have testified that the camps have become sites of sterilization by injection, forced pregnancy prevention, and forced abortion. Contention 3, cyber attacks. Turkey's membership in NATO makes the alliance more open to cyber attack intrusions. Cybersecurity reporter Bing in 2017 finds that there have been more targeted malware detections in Turkey than all of Europe combined. Intrusions are advanced and likely nation-state-backed hackers. Bing finds that the sheer volume of complex cyber attacks aimed at Turkish targets is driven by obsolete systems, desperate geopolitical conditions, government cronyism, and poor IT. 2 years ago, the cybersecurity hacking group Anonymous stole communications belonging to Prime Minister Erdogan, and a hacker released the data of 50 million Turkish citizens, including identification numbers. Rossman finds that Turkey's widespread underinvestment in digital security, mismanagement, and poor infrastructure leads to advanced hacking operations and misinformation campaigns aimed at not only Turkey, but NATO weapon systems. The impact of hacking is NATO nuclear weapons. Pomper 19 finds that the US currently has 50 nuclear bombs stored in Turkey, and that current US procedures are not designed to prevent skilled attacks or sabotage. And the threat is real, as Bing finds that Turkey's contentious relationship with Iran leads to targeted cyber attacks. Specifically, the Naval Postgraduate School in 2016 finds that NATO has had a historical threat of hackers. Hackers, in fact, disabled the military communication system of NATO in the past. Thus, Pomper concludes that with enough time, a hack into Turkey could make use of the nuclear material to detonate an actual nuclear explosion and release disastrous, deadly radiation. A nuclear blast causes millions to die, as Sagan of the University of Chicago finds, when combined with the prompt destruction from a nuclear blast, fires and follow, and the later enhancement of radiation, radioactivity could ultimately pose a serious threat. Weilerstein of the Stevens Institute of Technology finds a nuclear blast on Turkey could kill over 5 million people. Thus, we negate. Now we are going to move to the first rebuttal speech that is given by the pro side. I will start the time now. My opponent's framework talks about lives and democracy. We agree that these are important values, but what is also important to recognize is NATO is a military alliance. We would say that NATO historically has welcomed authoritarian countries because the end goal is to battle against core adversaries like Russia. Turkey's membership, we would say, aligns the nation closer to Western ideals of things like democracy. And our framework about lives depends on successful military defense from countries like Turkey. That's why you should weigh Turkey not only for lives and democracy, but also for its geopolitical and military contributions to NATO that helps protect against key adversaries like Russia. Now, My opponent's first contention is about the Kurdish genocide. Big issue here. First, the NATO Deputy Secretary General Gautam in 2022 finds that these nuclear weapons that Turkey is hypothetically using for leverage are in US hands with regards to operations. It's not as if Turkey can just move in and seize them. We would say that this mitigates their argument because there's not an actual US leverage, and in either world, Turkey would continue their genocide of the Kurds. But secondly, we would say their evidence is on net faulty because Turkey is not attacking innocent Kurds, it's stopping the terrorist regime known as the Kurdish YPJ. As Sabah in October finds, that Turkish soldiers eliminated more than 3,000 Daesh terrorists in almost 7 months. The impact would be saving lives, and you can reverse their contention on lives. As Sabah finds that the Syrian war and these Kurdish terrorists have killed more than 387,000 people and displaced millions since starting in 2011 with the brutal repression of anti-regime protests. Then, another reversal of their argument. Turkey protects innocent Kurdistans by fighting terrorism. As Sabah finds, the Turkey focused on providing security and stability in the region, such as Syria, to create necessary conditions for the return of civilians displaced due to terrorism. We would say that this also contributes to saving lives, as Sabah finds, in more than its 40 years of terror campaign against Turkey, the PKK has been responsible for the deaths of 40,000 people. Then, reverse our argument again. Turkey provides critical services to innocent people, including the Kurdistans, as Sabah finds that security forces and officials trained in Turkey started initiatives to support health, education, and public services, reaching a population of 2 million people. We would also say that Turkey decreases terrorism among the Kurds, as Sabah finds that 150 terror affiliates laid down their weapons and surrendered to security forces in Turkey in 2021 alone, and more than 1,000 young individuals were brought back in the past 5 years. Now, moving to my opponent's second contention on the Uyghur Muslim genocide. One, we would say that Turkey's membership aligns the nation closer to the Western ideals of democracy and allows them to contribute to countries like the United Kingdom and the United States, moving them closer to democracy. We would say in a world without Turkey being in NATO, the nation would be more enhanced and more prone to join Chinese influence, and therefore we would say the Uyghur Muslim genocide would become worse under a world where Turkey was not part of NATO. Two, we would say that so far, their only example is about 50 people being deported. In magnitude, that's not a huge impact. And finally, thirdly, they're losing on topicality because NATO as a military alliance is not going to be affected if 50 people are being deported. It's a small impact. Now, let's go to my opponent's final contention on cyber attacks. One, we would say every country is vulnerable to cyber attacks, making this argument not unique to the resolution. Two, you can turn it, because our third contention on Octopus cybersecurity contributions by Turkey proves that Turkey is helping cybersecurity across NATO and benefiting the alliance. Then, three, on their impact, there's never been a hack of NATO nuclear weapons, and the weapons are under US cyber defense too, providing a double shield against intrusions, which diminishes their probability of an attack. Finally, we don't even know where these nuclear weapons are that could be hacked. Someone would have to fly them to a densely populated area to even cause the mass death that they talk about. This cannot happen. The probability is extremely low. So now I'm going to begin the negative rebuttal. I will start my time now. Beginning with our framework, my opponent says that NATO stands for a successful military. We would agree, but we would also say that NATO and Turkey's membership in NATO is harming its values of democracy and the rule of law. For example, it's committing atrocities such as genocides. Second, we would say that Turkey is actually also negative for NATO military operations. Now, let's go to my first contention. My opponent says that the US is the sole controller of US nukes. We would say that's not true, according to Sapolsky of MIT, because even the threat and perception of hacking and Turkey's control of these nuclear weapons has led to US miscontrol, and that has allowed Turkey to interfere in the Kurdistan areas and commit their atrocious genocide. Two, they talk about terror being solved by Turkey. We would say that even if Turkey's solving for this, O'Grady finds that Turkey has displaced hundreds of thousands of Kurds as part of an extermination campaign, and that this terrorist type of rhetoric is only being used to justify an atrocity against the Kurdistans. Now, my opponent thirdly talks about services like healthcare that are going to immigrants. One, we would say, even if that's true, Turkey is still displacing hundreds of thousands of people. That's the only reason why it's providing some minimal benefit. And two, we would still say we outweigh because of the evidence that says that 30 million people in Kurdistan specifically are being violently suppressed by Turkey. Now, let's talk about my third contention on cyber attacks. We would say that Turkey is uniquely set to be more susceptible to cyber attacks that harm NATO. My opponent says that every other country receives cyber attacks. We would say that Turkey is the most vulnerable across Afro-Eurasia per our own evidence, and it has weak IT assets that harm NATO's security. Then they talk about their link into Octopus. I'll address that on their case. Then they talk about how no hack would lead to a nuclear level event. We would say that in the past, NATO systems have been hacked and that has harmed military operations. And two, Turkey still poses a strategic weakness because of the NATO nuclear weapons that are posed within the nation. Then my opponent says that you would need to fly these nuclear weapons in order to detonate them. We would say that even if the nuclear weapons are set off where they are originally, they could set off deadly radiation that could threaten millions of people. Now, let's go to my opponent's case. My opponent's first contention is on Octopus cybersecurity. We would say that even if some areas/agencies are using the Octopus system, it's not as if the entire system is being implemented in important areas like the electricity grid in the United States, for example, which means their argument isn't actually solving for the impact. Two, they have no examples of a cyber intrusion causing the death toll of a nuclear bomb, therefore you can mitigate their impact. Three, we would say we link into their contention on Octopus cybersecurity because Rossman from our case finds that Turkey's widespread underinvestment in digital security, mismanagement, and so forth leads to advanced hacking operations and misinformation campaigns aimed at not only Turkey, but agencies across NATO and NATO weapon systems within Turkey. Fourth, we would say that Turkey is bad at providing cybersecurity because Bing in 2017 finds that there have been more targeted malware detections in Turkey than all of Europe combined, proving that Turkey is uniquely susceptible to these types of cyber attacks. In fact, Bing finds that 2 years ago, Anonymous claimed to have stolen emails and communications belonging to Prime Minister Erdogan, showing that these types of security measures are not working within Turkey. Now, on my opponent's second contention on energy hegemony, they need to prove that Turkey is actually selling this oil and natural gas to NATO specifically. If they cannot prove that, then they're losing this argument on reality. Then we would say you can turn their argument because energy cooperation with Russia and solidifies Turkey's relationship with Russia and harms NATO. As Hoffman in 2021 finds that a new pipeline to Turkey with Russia replaces the gas that Turkey previously received from Ukraine. Turkey has commissioned Russia to build a nuclear power plant, and these developments deepen ties with Moscow, and the nuclear power plant gives Russia a literal nuclear leverage with Turkey because Russia is responsible for the operation and safety of the nuclear power plant that is implicit leverage over Turkey. Now, final response. Their impact is about Iraq, a couple issues. A, countries in NATO generally have more resources to support people during electricity crisis, and B, they have no examples within NATO of energy crises actually leading to the death of thousands of people. For that reason, they're losing on probability.